everything you wanted to know about making, serving and tasting champagne is in the upcoming 10 minutes. My name is Garry and I'm a WSET3 qualified sommelier. Let's go! Champagne was born many years ago in northern France in the Champagne region. An absolutely unsuitable area for producing still wines. At least that's how it was when champagne first appeared. The still wine they produced was highly acidic and didn't reach the necessary alcohol levels because there wasn't enough sugar to ferment. The brilliance of the champagne winemakers was that they managed to turn this climatic disadvantage into an advantage. How? By inventing the process of secondary fermentation, which is still used today to produce this great wine. If we delve into the production process, what is important to know about making champagne? In Champagne, grapes are always harvested by hand. The word champagne on the label imposes strict requirements on the producers regarding on how the wine is made. After the grapes are harvested, they are destamped and the juice is extracted. This juice begins to ferment, resulting in a primary wine with very low alcohol content, about 5–6%, and very high acidity. At this stage, producers decide on the proportions in which to blend the 3 grape varieties traditionally used in the region: Chardonnay, the only white grape variety, and 2 red grape varieties, Pinot Noir and Pinot Meunier. It's remarkable that even though the latter are red grapes, white wine can be produced from them. Why? Because the juice is white. It turns red only when the wine is left to macerate with the grape skins, which contains anthocyanins that give the wine its color. Champagne can be made entirely from Chardonnay, resulting in a wine called Blanc de Blanc, white from white. On the other hand, the blend of white and red grape varieties might produce a Blanc de Noir, white from black. Despite the use of red grapes, the resulting drink is still crystal clear. Once the base wine is created, the winemaker decides how to blend grape varieties and sometimes even different vintages. This is allowed because of the region's unstable climate, and blending ensures consistent quality in non-vintage champagnes which do not indicate a specific harvest year on the label. The resulting blend, often called the cuvée, then undergoes the process of champagne production. The wine is bottled and placed in cellars. Along with the wine, a liqueur de tirage is added to the bottle, a mixture of sugar and yeast. Essentially, it's a syrup. This addition triggers secondary fermentation, which creates the bubbles champagne is famous for. The bottles are stored horizontally in cellars and sediment forms at the bottom. This sediment consists of 3 fractions: hard, soft and sticky, the most troublesome as it clings to the walls of the bottle. Since this is a sparkling wine, filtering the sediment isn't straightforward. Instead, a process called riedling or remuage in French is used. In some places, there is even a dedicated job title for this, the remueur. Please correct me if I'm pronouncing the term incorrectly. This person manually rotates each bottle slightly, shifting the sediment towards the neck. Eventually, the bottles are stored vertically with the sediment at the neck. To remove it, the process of disgorging, dégorgement in French, is employed. Contrary to popular belief, the neck of the bottle is not immersed in liquid nitrogen, which would be far too cold at like -180 degrees Celsius. Instead, a salt water solution cooled to -27 degrees Celsius is used. The neck is dipped into this solution, freezing the sediment into a small plug of ice. The bottle is then opened and the ice plug along with the sediment is expelled under pressure. At this stage, some champagne is lost and the winemaker decides the final sugar level of the champagne by adding a dosage liqueur, a wine and sugar mixture. This determines whether the champagne will be brut, extra brut, or just some another style. Just for reference, brut contains up to 9 grams of sugar per liter, but this does not necessarily mean it is highly acidic. Sugar content and acidity are not directly correlated. Extra brut, for example, has little to no sugar added, but this doesn't make it more acidic. And by the way, let me introduce my private wine tours, where I, as a sommelier, take care of everything from selecting the best vineyards to arranging the perfect itinerary and accommodation. You tell me the destination and all you need to do after is enjoy the journey and the wine. Feel free to reach out on email or on Instagram for more details. The links are in the description below. And once the desired sugar level is achieved, the bottle is sealed with a cork. Champagne corks are never made of plastic, but are instead natural corks, often composite corks made of smaller pieces. Initially, the cork is cylindrical, but once compressed into the bottle, it eventually takes on the iconic mushroom shape. If the champagne does not have a vintage year indicated, its age can sometimes be estimated by examining the cork. A newer champagne will have a more conical cork, while an older one will have a straighter stem, indicating prolonged compression in the bottle. After the corking process, a wire cage muesli is placed over the cork to prevent accidental opening under pressure. The wire measures exactly 52 centimeters in length and is twisted precisely 6 times. These seemingly trivial details highlight the precision involved in champagne production. And you might wonder why champagne took so long to be invented. One major factor was the need for bottles capable of withstanding the high pressures, up to 6 atmospheres. The danger of pressure is also why some people open champagne with a saber, like Sabrage. When done correctly, the saber strikes the seam of the bottle's neck, which is the weakest point. A light, precise strike is enough to open the bottle, and the pressure within expels the cork and neck cleanly. And let's talk a little bit about aging of champagne. This intricate and labor-intensive process takes at least a year for non-vintage champagne, which does not display a specific year on the label. For vintage champagnes, the aging process is even longer, ensuring the highest quality. This is just a story of champagne, a wine both simple in enjoyment yet complex in creation, with a legacy rooted in history, tradition and innovation. The minimum aging time on lease for champagne is 12 months. The mid-range champagne wines, also known as vintage or millésime champagnes, display the harvest year on the label and must be aged for a minimum of 3 years. As we recall, the best champagnes such as Cristal or Noble Cuvée de Lançon require at least 5 years of aging. There are also some cheaper versions of champagne which are made by the same technique but in other regions. A well-known example is Spanish Cava, which uses local grape varieties such as Xarel·lo, Macabeo y Parellada. While Cava does not require as lengthy aging on lees as champagne, it is still made using the same method and is more affordable. Additionally, some sparkling wines are naturally carbonated through fermentation, where yeast converts sugar into alcohol and carbon dioxide. For champagne, each bottle undergoes fermentation individually. However, for other sparkling wines, the process may be a little bit different. For example, Asti and Prosecco are made in large tanks where both primary and secondary fermentation occur, and the wine is then bottled. This is a much simpler and cheaper method. Asti wine is always made from Muscat grapes, and it is a sweet, easy wine with a relatively low alcohol content. And actually, a lot of people enjoy its pleasant sweetness. Personally, I prefer dry champagne, but Asti remains a favorite for those who enjoy sweeter beverages. Another category of sparkling wine is Cremant, produced in other regions outside of Champagne, in France. Cremant is basically a champagne made by the same traditional method, but in other parts of France, not in Champagne. And a couple of words about the glasses for champagne. At traditional events like New Year's celebration or wedding, we typically use tall champagne glasses called flutes. But I actually recommend tasting and drinking high-quality champagne from normal white wine glasses, as they provide the best shape for savoring the drink. As for the serving temperature, champagne should ideally be served at around 6 degrees Celsius, 43 degrees Fahrenheit. A typical household refrigerator maintains a temperature of about 4 degrees, 39 degrees Fahrenheit, so we can chill the bottle thoroughly there. By the time we open the bottle and pour champagne for our guests, it will warm slightly, reaching the perfect serving temperature of 6 to 8 degrees Celsius or 43 to 46 Fahrenheit. This ensures no issues with serving champagne at the right temperature. The aging potential of champagne is another complex topic. As mentioned earlier, some champagnes like Cristal age for 10 years before even being released on the market. After that, they can often be stored for another 10 to 20 years under proper conditions. However, for long-term storage, I would recommend opting for high-quality red wines instead, as they generally have a longer aging potential than even the best champagne. All wines, whether sparkling, white, still or champagne, should always be stored horizontally. This ensures that the wine remains in contact with the cork, preventing it from drying out, which could lead to breakage. It is also crucial to maintain proper humidity in the cellar to prevent the cork from drying out on the outside. While champagne is less affected by this, it's especially important for still wines. Wine should ideally be stored in a dark place at a stable temperature of about 12 degrees Celsius, about 54 Fahrenheit. It's the ideal cellar condition. Bottles should remain completely still as vibration can accelerate spoilage. A household refrigerator, even beyond its low temperature of 4 degrees Celsius, is not suitable for long-term wine storage because it vibrates due to the compressor, which is harmful to wine. Additionally, a refrigerator is often shared with some foods, and since corks are porous and allow some air exchange, wine stored in a refrigerator for years might absorb unwanted aromas like those of fresh onions, butter, meats, cheese, whatever. These odors could overpower the natural wine aromas intended by its producer and nature itself. And for preserving an open bottle of champagne, there are special Cremant systems for sparkling wines which preserve bubbles in wine. They cost around $300, which is not that much compared to the price of a nice champagne. Write in the comments what's your favorite champagne, and see you soon. Bye.